I'm Byron Scott with a CTV News update. Well, police continue to investigate that deadly vehicle crash in Bowie that killed 4 people on Friday night. According to investigators, the carjacked SUV hit a tree and burst into flames on the 12,700 block of Woodmore Road in Bowie at about 7:30 Friday night. The crash happened shortly after police tried to pull over the Kia Sorento for having expired temporary tags. Police pursued the vehicle but lost it. A witness says a few minutes later the Kia passed them on the shoulder and crashed into a tree before catching fire, trapping all 4 inside. Here's what officials had to say a short while ago.
So what we believe at this time is that the accident involved 4 juveniles. That's what we believe. Again, the bodies were burned beyond recognition from what we understand. We also understand that the vehicle involved was reported as a carjacked vehicle earlier in that day. That the gang units were out just patrolling the area, saw a suspicious vehicle, ran the tags. The tags came back as stolen, and then ultimately it was determined that the vehicle was a carjacked vehicle. And so what we are seeing really is a series of bad choices made by people, often young people, that lead to tragic outcomes.
And police have not yet released the identities of the people in the SUV. They say 2 of the juveniles were not involved in the carjacking, but were picked up an hour before the crash. Well, survivors of child sex abuse by members of the Catholic clergy will not benefit as planned from a new law that just hit the books. On Sunday, Maryland's Child Victims Act went into effect. The law removes the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse lawsuits. The law came into effect the 2 days after the Archdiocese of Baltimore filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The filing means victims of clergy abuse will have to go before a bankruptcy judge and not a jury. The bill sponsored Delegate C.T. Wilson, who was not surprised by the decision, explained what's in store for the victims.
There will be a pot of money set aside once the assets of the Church of the Baltimore Archdiocese are determined. Then they will now set aside a pool of fund for the individuals to make claims. Of course, this is not the goal, and I wish the church would allow this to move forward in its natural course, because it would be nice to find out if there are other abusers out there that are still active. The problem with that is by not having the court cases and not having the discovery process, it'll be a lot harder. Again, they're going out of their way to protect the perpetrator, as they seemingly have always done.
The filing does not affect other victims of child sex abuse. They can still pursue civil compensation through the courts no matter how long ago it happened. Well, the government shutdown has been averted, so now what? The last hour agreement gives lawmakers until November 17th to agree on a spending bill that keeps federal and contract workers on the job. The measure sets aside $16 billion in disaster relief aid, and it will ensure paychecks will not be interrupted. Of concern are the items that were not included. There were no spending cuts, no additional aid to Ukraine, and no new border measures. Those are sticking points for a number of lawmakers, which could result in another possible shutdown and stalemate next month. Well, the powerful Senate Foreign Relations Committee has a new chair, and he's from Maryland. Ben Cardin replaces Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey, who stepped down from the post following his indictment on bribery charges. In his new role, Cardin has indicated possible policy shifts affecting Egypt, Turkey, the war in Ukraine, and other issues around the globe. Cardin's term as chair will be abbreviated because his term expires 2025, and he's not seeking re-election. Well, a federal judge blocks part of a new Maryland law. This, according to Maryland Matters, a U.S. judge issuing a preliminary injunction last Friday of the new law that restricts carrying firearms in certain public places. The injunction will allow firearms in businesses that sell alcohol, private buildings, and near public demonstrations. However, the new law will still limit residents' ability to carry weapons in public places like museums, healthcare facilities, school grounds, and parks, among others. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott. More news in a bit. Stay tuned.
For the longest time, it was hard for me to even get out of the house, much less do a backside 180. It took me a bit to understand what was going on, but eventually I learned I had anxiety. Now I'm getting help for it and feeling so much better. Sure, some days are better than others, but the whole thing about getting out of the house, that's not really an issue anymore.
Police arrest 2 men in connection with a fatal shooting in Temple Hills earlier this year. 49-year-old Jeffrey Coachman and 53-year-old Recco Booknight were charged with the June 22nd shooting death of 19-year-old Taziah Gaither of Washington, D.C. According to investigators, Gaither attempted to steal cash from Coachman. The victim was then shot and run over with the suspect's cars as they fled. The suspects face first and second-degree murder charges. In Laurel, police are looking for the man accused of stabbing another person in the head. The suspect is 26-year-old Eric Carpenter. Police say he randomly stabbed a bystander in the head last Friday on the 7800 block of Conti Road. He's in the hospital, expected to be okay. Police say Carpenter has multiple face tattoos, including the word Kim on his cheek. He's been charged with attempted murder and first-degree assault. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to contact police 301-498-0092. Well, copious notes were taken during a meeting with Governor Wes Moore and 6 of Maryland's tribes last week. Members discussed concerns within the tribal communities at the State House. This marks the first time an administration has met simultaneously with the leaders of all of these states' organized tribes. Issues such as land and cultural preservation to expand educational opportunities were discussed during the meeting. The 3 state-recognized tribes in attendance included the Piscataway Indian Nation, the Piscataway Conoy Tribe, and the Akahannock Tribe. Well, the Prince George's Board of Education recently approved the second phase of its school construction project. Through the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 project, the funding will continue to be a mixture of public and private dollars. The next phase includes 8 schools that will be built, including 6 elementary schools and 2 academies. School officials say they are currently in the middle of the design process for the next set of new schools.
But one distinction that I want to make very clear to everyone is we are required to fund phase 2 out of the operating budget, not the capital budget. So this will be a direct debit from the operating budget as we go forward. That will be new this time.
Washington says the second phase of the project will require the developer to hire a minimum of 40% of its workers from the county. Well, despite receiving a failing grade, hope still remains for the Anacostia River. In this year's report card, the Anacostia was graded at 52%, which is 3 points down from last year's grade. Just last month, DC Water announced the completion of a major sewer project that will drastically reduce overflow into the Anacostia. The report card assesses the river in 5 categories, including water quality, aquatic vegetation, stormwater runoff, toxics, and trash. Well, Montgomery County plans to phase out gas-powered leaf blowers and leaf vacuums in the near future. The council voting 10-1 to enact legislation to prohibit their use, and County Executive Mark Elwood says he plans to sign it into law. Elwood says transitioning away from the gas-powered tool reduces noise pollution and protects workers.
For people who have to listen to the leaf blowers, we're in their houses and people go out at 8 o'clock in the morning and start blowing the leaves off their lawn. It will not be as intrusive, with more working in home, which is a normal thing. A lot of people said this is one of the most disruptive things to being able to work at home and, the peace and quiet of your home, as you might expect. So I think there'll be a lot of, benefits for people, not just the environment.
Leaf blowers will end on July 1st, 2024, and use of the tool will be prohibited a year later. A rebate program will partially offset the replacement costs. Agricultural producers will be exempt from that law. Well, stay right there. More News Plus Sports after the break.
What's going on, sports fans? And coming up on your Monday sports page, a recap of the Wise High School, UMD, and Commanders football games that all took place over the weekend. Stay right there.
I've always been told I gotta be strong. Thick skin, tough as nails. But to be everything for everybody, it wears on you. Black don't crack, they say. But it can. We all can. Reach out to a friend if you see them going through it. No matter who you are, being vulnerable is what makes us whole. Learn how to help at seizetheawkward.org.
The Baltimore Orioles hold a public memorial this morning at Camden Yards for Mr. Oriole, Brooks Robinson. The Hall of Fame baseball player died on Tuesday at the age of 86. He spent his entire 23-year career playing in Baltimore and served in many different roles with the organization after his playing days were over.
Brooksy was my man. I'm sure that's how most kids who grew up in and around Baltimore felt. We all looked up to him as a great baseball player, which he was. But his greater influence on us came in the form of a role model.
We got this 21-year-old man driving up to the house to pick up his daughter and a friend to go to the arcades. Now, I find out later that he wasn't all cool with that. So I'm wondering if he left. As I drove out of the yard, he peeks out of the window like Macaulay Culkin and looking to see if I'm coming. You know, he hopes that I'll come back. So I came back.
And Orange players will wear an orange number 5 on their shoulder in honor of Robinson as they begin their playoff run on Saturday.
Your Monday sports page with some high school football news. The Pumas defense started the game off very well as cornerback Rayvon Johnson picked off Spartans quarterback Melvin Dean on their first offensive possession of the game. But the interception wouldn't result as a pick six due to a penalty by the Pumas. The Pumas offense was able to score though thanks to a big touchdown run by running back Cameron Parker, giving the Pumas their first of the game. After Laurel failed to score on their offensive drive, the Pumas offense picked up right where they left off, scoring again thanks to another touchdown run, this time by running back DeCarlos Young. Switching to the second quarter, the Spartans were able to make some plays, such as this nice gain by running back Takeo Sanford. Sanford continued to make plays such as this pick to prevent a 2-point conversion for Wise. In the end, the Pumas would dominate this game, winning 84-0. You can catch the Pumas in action again when they take on Duval on Saturday. Meanwhile, the UMD football team was in action on Saturday, taking the field against Indiana. Starting with some first half action, the Terps offense started the game off strong with quarterback Talia Tagovailoa completing a 62-yard pass to receiver Ja'Shawn Jones. This will put the Terps in good field position, and they took advantage by scoring their first touchdown of the day thanks to a pass caught by receiver Ty Felton. On defense, the Terps made great plays such as the sack by linebacker Kellen Wyatt that resulted in an 11-yard loss on the play on 4th and 1 for the Hoosiers. Moving on to the second half, the Terps continued to play well. The running back Roman Hemby had a couple of highlights such as this 22-yard run on 3rd and 4. The Terps would then score soon after a nice grab by receiver Caden Crayford. The Terps will come away with the victory in this one, beating the Hoosiers 44-17. Maryland will be on the road for their next game, taking on Ohio State on Saturday. And that is your Monday sports page.
A quick check now on our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 57. Tuesday and Wednesday, mostly sunny with daytime temps reaching a high near 83. Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 77. And now for the community calendar. This month, Prince George's County goes pink in support of breast cancer awareness. The county has many events planned to educate the community and provide resources for patients and survivors. Events like Men Who Cook in Pink, Pink Yoga, and more will be held throughout the county. Kick off October 4th. Visit mypgc.us/PGGP. And that's our news tonight. I'm Byron Scott. See you tomorrow night.